In tonight's headlines, Hong Kong and China hit back at Western criticism of the Article 23 law on national security. John Lee says strategic companies plan to create 13,000 jobs in Hong Kong in the next few years. And China's ties with Australia get a boost as Foreign Minister Wang Yi visits Canberra.
Just hours after the Legislative Council overwhelmingly endorsed Article 23 legislation yesterday, there was the expected chorus of criticism from the West. This prompted the Foreign Ministry's office in Hong Kong to accuse Britain and the European Union of making unreasonable comments after the passage of the Safeguarding National Security Bill. British Foreign Secretary David Cameron claimed that the new law will further damage rights and freedoms in Hong Kong. But a Foreign Ministry spokesman pointed out that the domestic national security legislation does not compromise the high degree of autonomy which the SAR enjoys under the Basic Law. The ministry urged Britain to give up the illusion of continuing its colonial influence in Hong Kong. Security Chief Chris Tang also vehemently disagreed with Cameron, describing his comments as false and biased. In a strongly worded statement, the Foreign Ministry office urged the EU to stop interfering in Hong Kong and China's internal affairs. This came after the Europeans said the new law could seriously affect the work of EU institutions in Hong Kong. Volker Turk, the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, also claimed that Article 23 erodes freedom of speech and the right to peaceful assembly.
美西方嗰啲國家，大家見到23條不斷咧係抹黑23條。
In response, Chief Secretary Eric Chan accused Western countries of trying to disrupt peace and order in Hong Kong by voicing unreasonable concerns. He reminded those countries that they have laws to protect national security, so why can't Hong Kong have its own legislation? Sachin Katwi, Cable News.
Just days before the Article 23 domestic national security legislation is implemented, DAB legislator Holden Chow reassured residents that they won't be affected as long as they abide by the law. He said the legislation mandated under the Basic Law is aimed at preventing potential harm to national security rather than actual prosecution. Several organizations, including the Bar Association and the Law Society, have expressed their support for the enactment of Article 23, which was unanimously approved by lawmakers yesterday. The law takes effect on Saturday and covers 39 offenses under 5 categories: treason, insurrection, theft of state secrets, sabotage, and external interference endangering national security. Political heavyweight Tam Yu-chung, who's the vice president of the Chinese Association of Hong Kong and Macau Studies, warned that outside forces would try to interfere. He told a radio show that passage of the bill was smooth, as senior officials explained it well to lawmakers.
其實佢都一定會係參考返國安法嘅一啲嘅標準嘅。
Simon Lee, a member of the Basic Law Committee, said the scope of Article 23 will not surpass the main law. He noted that recent penalties of subsidiary legislation amounting to $500,000 and 7 years in jail were all within the scope of the main law. Janice Yu, Cable News. The Baptist Hospital is planning to expand the number of beds and operating rooms. The Kowloon Tong Hospital informed the Town Planning Board that it would like to renovate blocks A, B, and C and add 4 floors to each of the 10-story buildings. When the work is completed, the number of hospital beds is expected to increase by 19% to 700, with 3 more operating rooms, taking the total to 16. The renovation is expected to begin in 2029 and take 4 years. Chief Executive John Lee says close collaboration between Hong Kong and foreign strategic companies will inspire innovation and accelerate technological breakthroughs in the city. He was speaking at the partnership signing ceremony for Oasis, the Office for Attracting Strategic Enterprises. Li said agreements that have been signed will increase jobs in Hong Kong.
Some 50 strategic, high-powered companies have chosen Hong Kong to establish or expand their business. Collectively, their decision to turn to Hong Kong for their future is bringing more than 40 billion Hong Kong dollars in investment to our place, to our economy, while creating some 13,000 jobs over the next few years. That's just the beginning.
Li said the strategic companies are from sectors such as life and health technology, artificial intelligence and data science, fintech, advanced manufacturing, and new energy technology. He added that the city's commitment to innovation and technology is in line with Beijing's policy. Speaking at the same ceremony, Financial Secretary Paul Chan said Hong Kong will keep striving to attract more like-minded enterprises and boost business in the city.
Oasis will continue to reach out to strategic enterprises. This year, it will meet up with at least 300 of them from around the world. And I have no doubt that there will be more significant signings in the months and years to come.
Foreign Minister Wang Yi, who is visiting Australia, has held talks with Prime Minister Anthony Albanese as relations between their countries continue to improve. China's top diplomat also met his Australian counterpart Penny Wong for wide-ranging discussions. Wang urged Canberra not to discriminate against Chinese firms. He said relations between China and Australia are on the right track, but hinted that Canberra's foreign policy should not be influenced by Washington. Wang pressed for peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait and raised the case of Australian writer Yang Hanjun, who was given a suspended death sentence by a Beijing court last month.
These topics underline that we do have important differences. Dialogue enables us to manage our differences. China will always be China, Australia will always be Australia. However, we want to continue to engage, to cooperate where we can and disagree where we must, and to manage these differences wisely.
Wang added that Australia is preparing for a visit by Premier Li Qiang this year.
Israeli airstrikes on a refugee camp in central Gaza have killed at least 19 people, including 5 women and 9 children. The latest casualties pushed the Palestinian death toll to nearly 32,000 since Israel began bombarding the enclave more than 5 months ago. At another refugee camp in northern Gaza, starving children flocked to a makeshift soup kitchen in search of a meal. Many waited for hours but left empty-handed. Famine is looming in Gaza as Israel restricts the entry of much-needed life-saving supplies.
The projected imminent famine in Gaza can and must be prevented. The extent of Israel's continued restrictions on the entry of aid into Gaza, together with the manner in which it continues to conduct hostilities, may amount to the use of starvation as a method of war, which is a war crime. The clock is ticking.
Seven crew members died when a South Korean tanker capsized in rough seas off southwestern Japan. Rescuers found 2 other sailors from the Kyoyong-san, but one was unconscious. A search was mounted for 2 men listed as missing. The crew consisted of 8 Indonesians, 2 Koreans, and a Chinese national. The vessel was carrying 1,000 tons of acrylic acid, but there have been no reports of a leak. there's both good and bad news on the labor front. According to Lancy Choi of the Manpower Group, 40% of employers are interested in hiring staff in the next 3 months, but 25% plan to lay off workers. Data collected by Manpower from 525 local companies show that the communications and media industry is in most need of new talent with the emergence of new media platforms. Choi says there's also an increasing need for media creation through integration with artificial intelligence.
Simona Halep is back in competitive tennis after her doping ban was reduced. The Romanian took on Paula Badosa of Spain in the first round of the Miami Open.
Oh, what a start!
Former Wimbledon champion Halep did not appear rusty despite her 18-month absence and cruised through the opener. But Badosa overcame her recent struggle with form and injury to level the tie.
Down the middle.
Halep, who was a wildcard entry in the Florida tournament, held on early in the deciding set.
Yeah, real intensity and...
But the Spaniard proved to be stronger and won 6-1, 6-4, 6-3 in just under 2 hours. Badosa will next face Australian Open champion Aryna Sabalenka, who has decided to play despite the death of her boyfriend earlier this week. Hong Kong tennis ace Coleman Wong has reached his maiden Masters tournament after qualifying for the main draw in the Miami Open. Wong got a wild card to participate in the qualifying rounds and defeated Frenchman Hugo Gaston and India's Sumit Nagal. The Hong Konger will face Serb Laslo Yere in the first round. The Orlando Magic stayed on course for a spot in the playoffs when they hosted the Charlotte Hornets, who are unlikely to progress beyond the regular season. Currently 5th in the Eastern Conference, Orlando were looking to extend their 3-game winning streak. Some swift passing inside the arc by Franz Wagner caught the Charlotte defense off guard, and Paolo Banchero with a dunk took the Magic 18 points clear in the second quarter.
Alley-oop, Franz Wagner with the no-look, sees his...
Jalen Suggs frustrated the Hornets with a few steals and then made it count, hitting maximum. Facing a 33-point deficit in the third, Charlotte were losing an uphill battle as Brandon Miller tried to rally the Hornets. Miller got some help from Trey Mann, who went the distance. However, Orlando were too far ahead and secured their 4th straight win after taking the match 112-92.